there's increasing discussion about the alternatives between Joe Biden and Donald Trump with respect to fiscal policy. And you've been outspoken on the question, as others have been, about the possibility of inflation with the Trump economic policy. Take us through that.
Look, I don't think there's been a more inflationary presidential economic policy platform in my lifetime. Perhaps George McGovern in 1972 in some ways would be a comparison, but other than that, I don't think there's been remotely comparably irresponsible set of proposals. What is President Trump advocating? He's advocating substantial increases in budget deficits through the continuation of tax cuts. He's advocating debasing the currency by calling for a lower value of the dollar. He's launching the most direct threat to central bank independence in historical memory. And so on the demand side, it's all inflation stuff. What about on the supply side? His tariff proposals are the biggest supply shock, pushing up prices, not just of imported goods, but of all the goods that compete with imported goods. That anybody who's worried about gouging should think that more competition, including from abroad, is a very, very important step. And he's for much greater restrictions on the supply of labor, leading to more wage inflation pressures. And he's for scaling back the subsidies to renewable energy, raising energy costs. So look at it from demand, look at it from supply. This is a prescription for a major increase in inflation. And of course, the expectation of that major increase in inflation, and possibly the fact that the Fed will be under much more pressure to prove that it's credible. This could easily be a prescription for a 10% mortgage rate, something that I lived through when I bought my first house, but that I didn't think we were going to see again in the United States. This is really dangerous stuff.
Larry, let me pick up on the tariffs issue specifically. As we know, former President Trump traveled to Capitol Hill this week, and there were reports in the press that he floated, at least as an idea, replacing some or all of income tax with tariffs. There was one report that actually would just replace it entirely. What would that do from a macroeconomic point of view?
Look, people misspeak. Sometimes they're not serious about the things they say. That's probably a feature of candidate Trump. But replacing the income tax with revenue, with tariff, would be the worst macroeconomic policy proposal in U.S. history. It, of course, burdens the middle class and the poor who purchase goods that exist on international markets. So it's regressive, as many economic commentators have suggested. But that is actually the least of it. Think about it this way. The Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which did enormous damage, some people would say made the Depression great, were 0.6% of GDP. If you replaced half of income tax revenues, not all like he talked about, if you replaced half of income tax revenues with tariffs, those would be tariffs 6 times Smoot-Hawley levels. That's got the potential to do enormous damage to the competitiveness of every U.S. exporter, to do huge damage to all kinds of workers who use imported goods in what their businesses produce, to create a downward spiral as much higher prices for everything we import means consumers have less to spend on everything else, create worldwide economic warfare as the rest of the world responds. This is a prescription for the mother of all stagflations.